Hello, my friend. Welcome to English Legacy. Today I'm going to tell you the story of a TV series character. We will not only learn the story, but also understand the psychological structure of our character. Our character's name is Walter White. If you're ready, let's begin. Walter White's story begins not with great events, but with small obligations. He has lived a normal life his entire life. He is a chemistry teacher at a high school. The topics he teaches in class are complex and valuable, but for his students, this knowledge is just ordinary information used to pass exams. Walter knows this too, but he continues teaching with great passion because what life has taught him is this: if you raise your voice, you lose. If you are patient, you adapt. Walter's troubles look ordinary from the outside. His financial situation is not good. He does not receive respect, and he cannot get the return he deserves for the effort he puts into his work. But these are not the real problem. The real problem is that he feels worthless. He thinks he made a wrong decision at some point in his life, but he cannot fully understand what that decision was. He only feels it. There is a sense of emptiness inside him. The potential he had in his youth becomes a burden for Walter as the years pass, because seeing the people who were once beside him become much more successful is unbearable torture for him. They were not afraid to take risks and make mistakes, and in the end they succeeded. Walter, on the other hand, chose the safe path out of fear of taking risks, and now this safe path is suffocating him. Walter does not share these feelings with anyone. He does not tell his wife or his friends because he thinks if he does, he will appear weak. Being weak is his greatest fear, so he stays silent. The more he stays silent, the more the anger inside him grows. Every moment he is looked down upon and ignored adds a new layer to that anger. When the idea of death moves from being a possibility to becoming a reality, a new life begins for him. Time is no longer an abstract concept, but a limited thing that can be counted. This awareness opens a new door in Walter's mind. The thoughts he has been forced to suppress for years flood in through that door. The question, "Am I going to die without achieving anything in this life?" gives him no peace. After receiving the news that he is going to die, life is no longer the same for Walter. He begins to think that patience is no longer a virtue, because patience has never earned him anything throughout his life. He has followed the rules his entire life, but in return he has received no respect. Walter no longer wants to be ordinary. His first steps into the criminal world are not as frightening as he expected, because these steps are not taken all at once. First he makes small decisions. He finds reasons that seem justified to him. He thinks about his family's future. These reasons help ease his conscience. Walter does not think of himself as a bad person. He is just someone doing what needs to be done. In the criminal world, Walter receives genuine respect for the first time. His chemistry knowledge is a remarkable power for him. People need him and take what he says seriously. This feeling is something Walter has never experienced in his life before, and this feeling allows him to adapt to the criminal world. As the quiet man leaves the stage, a darker and fearless figure emerges. As Walter gets used to this new life, fear gives way to confidence. Things he once hesitated about now begin to feel normal to him. Each success makes it easier to accept the next one. Walter no longer just wants to exist in this world. He wants to be a man who has a say in this world. As events unfold, Walter's behavior changes. He no longer holds back from things he used to be afraid to do. He speaks looking directly into people's eyes. His tone is sharp, his manner is clear. This change is the emergence of the suppressed personality that has been inside him for years. For Walter, this is not a mask. This is his true face. During this process, Walter's moral values begin to deteriorate. Things he once said, "I would never do even if I could," gradually turn into, "I had no other choice." Because this transformation is slow, he cannot notice it himself, or he does not want to admit that he notices it, because accepting this change means confronting himself. As Walter's power increases, his need for control increases rapidly as well. Now everything must go according to his plan. Even a small problem makes him uncomfortable, because losing control reminds him of the possibility of returning to his old self. This is Walter's greatest fear. He never wants to be a man who receives no respect again. During this period, the relationships in Walter's personal life begin to suffer. The bonds he once formed with people begin to lose their sincerity. At this point in the series, we see Walter becoming more aggressive and calculating. Being dangerous no longer frightens him. On the contrary, danger makes him feel alive, because for the first time in his life, he is the one who is feared. This feeling is the most important thing feeding Walter's ego. But his rapid rise comes at a price. Walter begins to become isolated without realizing it. People who approach him are not sincere. They either fear him or have something to gain. Walter accepts this willingly because in his view, loneliness is a natural consequence that comes with power. Walter has now reached a point of no return. He still thinks control is in his hands, but in reality control has slowly passed to others. Instead of setting him free, his power has begun to take him prisoner. At this point in Walter's story, his greatest enemy is not someone else. His greatest enemy is his own ego. He begins to see himself as indispensable. He believes that this system would collapse without him. This belief pushes him to make even more dangerous decisions. The difficult decisions he makes gradually become something he cannot escape from. For Walter, limits have completely disappeared now. Power has settled at the center of his identity. Everything in his life exists to protect this power. People, relationships, values. All of it has begun to lose importance and has been pushed to the background. Walter is aware of this, but he does not want to stop, because if he stops, he would have to admit that everything was for nothing. During this process, the thing that suffers the most is his relationship with his family. Lies are told constantly, truths are hidden. Walter thinks everything is normal, but the peace at home has long since vanished. Yet Walter does not take a step back, because at this point going back means that all the effort he put in was wasted. Walter begins to feel more isolated than ever during this period. There are many people around him, but in a real sense there is no one. There is no trust, no love. There is only fear and insincerity. Walter is forced to accept this. It is as if he has learned a different language of communication in this world. Mistakes begin to pile up. Small details that were poorly planned grow bigger, plans fall apart. Walter struggles to accept this because accepting that he made a mistake means accepting that he was defeated. So he becomes harsher and more controlling. He is willing to do anything to avoid losing control. At this point, conflicts form inside Walter's inner world. On one side is the part of him that does not want to let go of power. On the other side is the part that realizes the price of what he has done. The first voice is always louder for him, because power speaks in a much higher voice. As the story approaches its end, there is nowhere left for Walter to run. He has found the respect he searched for throughout his life, but the price has been far too heavy. The bonds with his family have been severed, his old self has disappeared. All that remains are the consequences that the choices he made have brought before him. Walter is finally forced to confront himself. He realizes that this journey was not a sacrifice. He actually did all of this not for his family, but for himself. Power gave him the feeling of being alive. Control filled everything that was missing in his life. But these realizations cannot bring anything back. Some roads once entered cannot be returned from. Living with this awareness is the heaviest punishment for him, because he now understands what he has lost. Walter White's story is so powerful for this reason, because this is not the story of a bad man. It is the story of a good man who made wrong choices. Our story ends here. I hope you enjoyed our video. See you in a new story.